بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي ليس لقضائه دافع ولا لعطائه مانع الذي حفظتني في المهد طفلا صبيا ورزقتني من الغضاء لبنا مريا الذي لا إله إلا هو إلها واحدا أحدا فردا صمدا قيوما ولم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلائق أجمعين البشير النذير والسراج المنير الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذلومين المنتخبين المنتجبين الذين كلامهم نور وأمرهم رشد ووسيتهم التقوى وفعلهم الخير وعادتهم الإحسان وسجيتهم الكرم لا سيما على مهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن الأسكري أرواحنا فداء لعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال مولانا علي بن الحسين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: السلام عليك يا أمين الله في أرضه وحجته على عباده. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، أشهد أنك جاهدت في الله حق جهاده وعملت بكتابه واتبعت سنن نبيه حتى دعاك الله إلى جواره فقبضك إليه باختياره وألزم أعداءك الحجة على ما لك من الحجج البالغة على جميع خلقه. اللهم فاجعل نفسي مطمئنة بقدرك راضية بقضائك مولعة بذكرك ودعائك. Our discussion continues analyzing the ziyarah of Aminullah. And so far we've looked at many issues to do with the ziyarah, to do with the status of Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullahi alayhi and the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but also issues that have been mentioned in the ziyarah with regards to the spirituality of the human being, the state of the human being in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how the ziyarah alludes to different ways within which the human being can get closer to Allah azza wa jal. And yesterday we looked at the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking the soul of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. For Imam Sajjad bears witness that the holy Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen followed the Quran and Sunnah and struggled in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls Amir al-Mu'mineen to his jiwar. And we looked at the meaning of this word jiwar. And in actual fact, if we were to sum up everything that we said yesterday in one sentence, we could explain it by this statement. Often I'm asked a question, if I had, people often think about this, if I had 1 hour to live, or if someone told me that I have 1 more hour of life left on this earth, what would I do differently? أو بعبارة أخرى, if I had 1 day left, someone told me I've got 1 more day to spend on this earth, what would I do differently? And everyone would have something that we would pray more, gain more knowledge, do istighfar, make amends with this person or that person. But when it comes to the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the gist of what Imam Sajjad alayhi salam was saying is that even if you told Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, Ya Abul Hasan, you have 1 hour left or 1 day left, he would do nothing differently. And this is the case of all A'imma and Ma'sumin and Infallibles. They would do nothing differently than what they do currently. This was the status of the lives of the likes of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and others, always ready for death, and never would they change their character, for their character is the same, struggling in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sentence then that we wish to analyze today is the next one after the one we spoke about yesterday, حَتَّى دَعَكَ اللَّهِ إِلَى جِوَارِهِ. Imam Sajjad says, فَقَبَذَكَ إِلَيْهِ بِاخْتِيَارِهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he calls you to his jawar. We explained what it means, to his proximity, to his protection. فَقَبَذَكَ إِلَيْهِ بِاخْتِيَارِهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grasped and took your soul towards himself with his own will. And here a number of questions arise as to what was meant by this statement, as well as the statement afterward, which inshallah we shall also discuss. فَقَبَذَكَ إِلَيْهِ بِاخْتِيَارِهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grabbed and took your soul towards him with his own ikhtiyar. So a question that the people that have written commentaries on the ziyarah have asked is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he takes someone's soul, he always does it with his own free will and own choice. It can never be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't do something with his own ikhtiyar and with his own free will and choice and wanting to do that. In fact, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want something to happen, it won't happen. And if He wants for something to happen, it will take place. This was the meaning of when we call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Qadir. And we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all powerful. Another meaning of that is in sha'a fa'al, in lam yasha lam yaf'al. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes for something to take place, He does it, He's able to do it. And if He doesn't want something to take place, He doesn't do it, it doesn't take place. And so whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes, Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtaha, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the soul of someone, this is with His own ikhtiyar, His own free will and Allah's choice. For it cannot be that something happens without the ikhtiyar and the choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the belief that of course we have, especially in the madhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. And so the commentators began to ask this question, what exactly was meant when Imam Sajjad said that Allah took your soul with His own choice. For whenever Allah takes someone's soul, it's with His own choice, Allah's own will and choice. Why did He mention it here in this case? And in actual fact, what the Imam Salamullah alayhi was highlighting towards, la'allahu, what the ulama have mentioned, is that sometimes a person, he, for example, struggles in this life and in his moment of death because this was a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person, he committed sins, for example. At that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to take his soul at a certain moment in time because that person committed sins, was disobedient. So one type of death is that the death is, for example, difficult. And that person's soul is taken at that time, as we spoke about some issues yesterday as to why lifespan is shortened. His soul is taken at that time because that person committed sins. This is a form of punishment for that person's sin. So one type of death is when a person has committed sin, the death may be difficult, and there's a certain moment in time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes his death. This is one group. For example, we are told if a person doesn't do silatul rahim and have good relationships with his family members and near relatives, then lifespan is shortened. If someone's life, therefore, is taken at that moment in time as a short life, the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes their soul is because of the sins that they have committed. So that's one group. The second group is that the reason why they passed away is because they were unhealthy. They didn't look after their body. They had certain illnesses that they brought upon themselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala follows the system of cause and effect. This person, for example, didn't eat well. This person didn't used to take care of his health and diet. I take his soul at this moment in time. But Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi, neither is his death based on a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For Amir al-Mu'mineen is not only ma'soom, he's the father of the Imam alayhi wassalam. Nor is it because of his health that he had, for example, he didn't take care of his health, and because of that, he died at a certain age. Rather, the only reason why he died at the moment that he died is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him towards him. Because it could have been that Ibn Muljam strikes Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi, yet he recovers, but he didn't recover. It could be that he's struck, he's given medicine, he becomes better, and he dies, for example, 20 years later. But he died at that moment in time. Neither was it because of punishment, nor was it because of atharud dunyawiyya, issues of the dunya, and, for example, not taking care of his health. Rather, it's because فَقَبَذَكَ إِلَيْهِ بِاخْتِيَارِهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ikhtiyar and will was present at that moment in time. And in this regard, when we look at this idea of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking everyone's soul with his ikhtiyar, the ulama tell us that there are three different groups of people, and their souls are taken in these three different ways in relation to the will of God and the state of that human being. And this will help us to understand how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the soul of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, as mentioned in this siyar. Three groups of people. The first group of people include a few anbiya only, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed them to be able to only pass away into the next world when they will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will is always there, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will only take your soul when you are happy. For example, Nabi Musa alayhi salam were told, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was asked by Musa salamullah alayhi, Musa said, only when I'm ready and happy and pleased to go to the next life and go into the akhirah, take my soul. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no problem. Whenever you wish, this is something I'll give you. Whenever you wish to leave this world, I'll take your soul. As long as you don't wish to die, I won't take your soul. So they saw that Nabi Musa alayhi salam, because of his young daughter that he was leaving behind, and he was worried for her. Why I'd say that Musa alayhi salam was worried that when he passes away, this young daughter of his may not be taken care of by his cousins, uncles, aunties. They may not take care of his daughter. And so he was worried about what will happen to her after he dies. And so because of this, Musa alayhi salam was never wishing death, was never wanting death. Until one moment in time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to, in actual fact, take his soul and wanted to show him the sweetness of the death of a believer and the sweetness of the akhirah for a mu'min and believer, let alone a prophet of God. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an angel down, and this is narrated by Allama Majlisi, rahmatullah alayh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an angel down. This angel comes in the form of a human being, and this angel is trying to dig up a grave in the middle of nowhere. We don't know where the grave of Musa alayhi salam in actual fact, but where it is, exactly where it is, a lot of people are unaware. This angel is digging up this grave. Musa alayhi salam is walking with his successor, Yusha bin Nun, salamullah alayhi, who in English would be known as Joshua. And as they're traveling, they see this person digging the grave. So Musa alayhi salam says, would you like us to help you? And the angel says, yes, of course. So they start to help dig this grave. And then the angel of God, who is in the form of a human being, tells Musa, if you don't mind, can you get in the grave? Because I want to see if a person can fit inside it. Is the depth right? Is the width, everything, the length, is the size correct? If you don't mind, if you can just get inside of that grave. Musa alayhi salam lies down inside of the grave, and at that moment in time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals for him the position that he would have in the akhirah. His status in the akhirah is revealed to him at that moment in time. When he sees the ni'mat, the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala waiting for him in the akhirah, at that moment his heart then wishes for death. And as he said to Allah, only take my soul when my heart wishes for death. At that moment, when he sees the bounties of God, he wishes for death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that moment in time, sends the angel of death. The angel of death takes his soul. Musa alayhi salam dies there. Yusha bin Nun then does the ghusl, and they do the salah on the body of Musa alayhi salam, and he's buried in that same grave. So this was an example of a prophet of God who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed him to only wish death, to only his soul to only be taken from his body when he wishes death. Another example, as I said, was Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nabi Ibrahim sallallahu alayhi asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on one occasion. He says, Ya Allah, allow me to only die when I wish. No problem, my Khalil, my Nabi, the Hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth, no problem. When you wish to die, I'll take your soul. In fact, Ibrahim says, allow the responsibility of my death to be on my own shoulders whenever I want. Even if I wish death now, if I say take it from me later on, take it from me later on. He says, no problem. We're told in the riwayah that once Ibrahim alayhi salam has done this deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I be responsible for my own death whenever I wish, Ibrahim alayhi salam goes to a dinner that he's invited to by a group of mu'mineen, or a group of people. He's sitting there, he sees a number of people sitting, and there's one man who's very old. He's so old that his eyebrows are drooping and they're completely white. He can barely see anything. And they start to eat. When they start to eat, this person, this elderly man, he's picking up the food with his hands or whatever utensils they had, cutlery that they had, and his hands are shaking. He's unable to put the food in his mouth. He can't see, he doesn't know hand-eye coordination, any of these things. As he's eating, instead of going into his mouth, it, for example, hits his cheek, it hits his chin, it hits his forehead. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is sitting there watching. And Ibrahim salamullah alayhi at that moment thinks, for this person, death is actually a big ni'mah and bounty for him. For a lot of people, for example, they don't have family members to take care of them when they're elderly. They have no one there. They are alone. They have issues. For that person, death is actually a bounty. Ibrahim alayhi salam, as soon as he finishes that meal and leaves, he goes back to Allah. He says, Ya Allah, in actual fact, no. I don't want death in my hands. I don't want to be like that person. I leave my death in your ikhtiyar, in your choice. Whenever you wish to take my soul, you take it. Whenever you wish for me to, if you wish for me to stay on this earth, I'll stay. If you wish for me to go, I'll go. So the first group were certain prophets of God that asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the matters of their death to be in their own hands, such as Musa and Ibrahim. This is the first group. The second group of people, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the responsibility of choosing when they die in his own hands. And when he did so, a lot of these people were not happy. How many people, if you were to ask them, would you be happy, for example, to leave this world in the next half an hour? It's a question a lot of people don't want to ask, don't want to think about. And, you know, I remember once on one occasion, I was in a certain city for majalis, and I had a lecture in the cemetery, the graveyard. A lot of the masajid and people have a very good practice of having majalis in the cemetery once a month, for example. Regularly visiting the graveyard is something very good. As we said, remembering death has a big impact on a person's life. So the night before that majlis, I was sitting with a few youths, and when we were leaving our gathering, I said to a lot of them, inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow at the cemetery and at the graveyard for the majlis. And one of them said, no. I said, what do you mean no? He said, no, I can't. The only time I want to go to the graveyard and the cemetery is when I die. Otherwise, whilst I'm alive, whilst Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me life, I don't want to think about death. I don't want to get depressed thinking about death. The only time I go to the graveyard is when I'm going to die, only once in my life. A lot of people don't want to think. A lot of people wouldn't be happy or wouldn't be ready if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wished to take their soul in the next few hours. So the second group are those. Allah takes their soul with his own ikhtiyar, with his own will. Not like the previous case when he allowed certain prophets to choose when they die. He gave it to, the responsibility is on his own shoulders, metaphorically. Yet the person who is about to die is not happy. Most of us were not happy if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to take my soul at a certain moment in time. Even if I've lived hundreds of years on this earth, I'd still have wished for longer life. The third group are some mu'mineen, and those that include the anbiya and other infallibles and a'immah, which are those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes their soul with his own ikhtiyar, with Allah's choice and will. However, when he takes it, that person, that prophet of God, that ma'soom, that believer is completely happy and content with Allah's choice. The reason why, so some may ask the question, isn't there a greater status of Musa and Ibrahim compared to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? Why? Because Allah gave them the choice to choose their own death, Musa and Ibrahim, and not to Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhi. No, in actual fact, there isn't a greater status. Rather, even those who asked to have their own death in their own hands, even they realized that the best person to leave the affairs of my life and death in is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked A'immah to choose when they wish to die themselves, they would say, Ya Allah, whenever you wish to take our souls, we are happy. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who knows, who is mudabbirul umur, who knows the best of affairs, when to take his soul, when to not take his soul. And so we find Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam of this group and other Anbiya and A'immah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take their souls with his own will, and they were completely in agreement with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With regards to this, we have a riwayah. We have a riwayah where a person says, I came to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi on one occasion, and I saw him standing outside of his house, and I saw that the Imam salamullah alayhi looks very distressed. I saw that there's signs of stress on his face, and I asked him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, is everything okay? You know, these people that would meet the Imam so regularly, they can tell when the Imam is happy, when the Imam is sad. They can see something is different. So they asked him, they said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, is everything okay? So the Imam said, look, my child is actually unwell at the moment. It's quite unwell, which is why I'm slightly worried. Part of human nature, the child is unwell, but slightly worried. The person then sits in the house for a while. He sees that the Imam suddenly goes inside of one of the rooms. 20 minutes later, the Imam comes out. But you'll be surprised to hear in the riwayah that now when the Imam comes out of that room 20 minutes later, his face is much more relaxed. He seems completely content, itmi'nan, tranquility. Before he was slightly stressed, now itmi'nan and tranquility. So the person says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I see this tranquility and relaxation on your face. Does this mean that inshallah your child has become better? His condition or her condition has improved? So the Imam says, no. Whilst I was in this room for 20 minutes, my child passed away. Wa inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. My child has passed away. So the person says, but this doesn't make sense, Ya ibn Rasulullah. Before, when the child was alive and unwell, you were looking stressed. Now that the child has passed away, there's tranquility and peace on your face. It should have been almost the opposite. Whilst the child is alive, you are happy. When the child dies, you should have that stress. So the Imam Salamullahi alayhi explained to him the state of the true believers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. رِضًا بِقَضَائِهِ وَتَسْلِيمًا لِأَمْرِهِ. Those who are completely happy with the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imam says this is the state of us Ahlul Bayt. That when a musibah, when a tragedy comes upon us, at the beginning we may seem distressed, but then we immediately put all our affairs in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are happy with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us. So yes, when the child was unwell, I had some distress. However, immediately I put all of the affairs in the hands of Allah, and I said, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in this case, I'm happy. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wished with his divine will and divine knowledge to take the soul of my child into the akhirah. I'm happy with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the same philosophy behind the statement of Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha, ma ra'aytu illa jamila. All I saw was beauty. This was the beauty, i.e. this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wished for Huseini salamullahi alayhi to be killed on that day, we're happy with it. Yes, it was a tragedy. Yes, we mourn that tragedy. However, it was part of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do taslim and submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is also why Amir al-Mu'mineen, on the night that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala فَقَبَذَكَ إِلَيْهِ بِاخْتِيَارِهِ, on the night that he struck and his soul begins to leave his body, that he would say, لَا مَفَرَّ مِنْ قَضَاءِ اللَّهِ. There's no running away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed. Therefore, we understood from the statement فَقَبَذَكَ إِلَيْهِ بِاخْتِيَارِهِ what was meant by bikhtiyar, and how there are three groups of people with regards to death. And the third were those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes their soul with his own ikhtiyar, and they're happy with whatever, and they have submission to whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. The ziyarah then goes on. وَأَلْزَمَ أَعْدَاءَكَ الْحُجَّ عَلَى مَا لَكَ مِنَ الْحُجَجِ الْبَالِغَةِ عَلَى جَمِيعِ خَلْقِهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made incumbent upon your enemies the proof. عَلَى مَا لَكَ مِنَ الْحُجَجِ الْبَالِغَةِ عَلَى جَمِيعِ خَلْقِهِ. Whilst you are also a proof for all of the khalq and creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made incumbent upon your enemies the proof, al-hujjah. Whilst you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, are hujjah on all of the khalq and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This statement, the commentators of Ziyarat Aminullah said, is one of the difficult statements to understand. Which is why Allamatul Majlisi explains what exactly is meant by the statement وَأَلْزَمَ أَعْدَاءَكَ الْحُجَّ عَلَى مَا لَكَ مِنَ الْحُجَجِ الْبَالِغَةِ عَلَى جَمِيعِ خَلْقِهِ. Before I can go to explain that, I wish to give an example so that we can better understand what exactly is meant by hujjah and proof. For the ulama in theology and usul al-fiqh, in fiqh and jurisprudence, have this idea of something being hujjah, something being a proof that I can rely upon, and a hujjah to understand what we mean by a proof or a hujjah or a that which can be relied upon in my day-to-day life. We understand that hujjah has a number of key qualities, that which is classified as a hujjah. So let me give an example to clarify what is meant. Let's say I have a glass in front of me. I don't know what's inside this glass, and I see a riwayah let's say the riwayah, the hadith is authentic, and we can classify this riwayah as proof, as hujjah. In front of God, this is a proof. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks me why I did this, I've got this proof to justify. That riwayah, let's say this is of course only an example. That riwayah says that which is in front of you, which you are about to drink, is apple juice. No problem, I began to drink it. It turns out that it wasn't apple juice, it turned out to be alcohol. For whatever reason, the riwayah said one thing, it turned out to be something else. Oh, no problem. It's not like the Imam told me that. The Imam can never be wrong. Because I acted on that which is hujjah and a proof in the eyes of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't punish me. For if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks me, why did you drink alcohol? I said, I didn't know. The riwayah told me it's not alcohol, I didn't know. If I knew it and I drank it, that was a separate story. So one quality of that which is a hujjah and proof is that it saves a person from adhab. As I explained before, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks me, why did you pray in this way? I'll say, because the Imam alayhi salam taught me to pray in this way. This is a proof that I can place in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't punish me for anything due to me acting on that proof. The second scenario is that they told me that which is in front, the riwayah said that which is in front of you is alcohol. The proof came, that which is in front of you is alcohol. I drank it anyway. Now in the akhirah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can say to me, I gave you the proof in the first place. Now you've got no excuse as to why you drank it. If you didn't know, if two people came to you and told you this isn't alcohol, then you drank it and it turned out to be alcohol, you were jahil, you were unaware, you forgot, all of these things would protect you from adhab and punishment. But here, two people came, or here the riwayah came and told you that which is in front of you is khamr, is alcohol, is wine. The proof was there. You drank it anyway. Now you've got no excuse. Now the hujjah, the proof is incumbent upon you. Now you are worthy of punishment. Therefore, we understand that al-hujjah, that which is proof in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has two perspectives. One is that the hujjah, when acted upon, saves you from punishment. Number two, the hujjah, when it is denied, makes you liable of punishment and adhab. This is what we mean when we say, for example, that the Imam are hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the Imam who I saw in front of me, who gave me his teachings, if I act on his teachings, I'm saved from punishment on the day of judgment. If, however, the Imam has come to me and clearly explained everything to me, then I don't follow what he says, then I'm liable of punishment. But we also have a third group. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ma kunna, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ma kunna mu'adhibin hatta nab'atha rasula. If we don't send a person this hujjah, this proof, we're not going to punish them. A person, for example, lives in the jungle. He has no idea of what is God. He has no prophet of God. He has no Rasul. He has no messenger, no Imam, no infallible. He had no way to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That person, his story is different. But once the hujjah is in front of you, the proof is in front of you, then we have these two qualities of that which is a proof. Oh, if we've understood that, now we can understand this statement. وَأَلْزَمَ أَعْدَاءَكَ الْحُجَّةِ. The proof was made incumbent upon your enemies. Number one, who are enemies of Amir al-Mu'mineen? You'll notice when someone is very average in their life, they're not spectacular, they don't have good qualities necessarily, they're very average, they won't have enemies. Normally that person has people that hate him, has people that are jealous of him, has enemies. That person who is a person of virtue and fadila, a person who has great status, a person who is a genius, for example, he'll have enemies. The enemies of Ali bin Abi Talib were many. For how can you imagine that for years after his death, people sent or would send la'na on Amir al-Mu'mineen, on the manabir, on the pulpits? How many enemies are there of Ali bin Abi Talib? Here, what was being referred to Allah and others, the enemies, what was being referred to by enemies was Khawarij, the Kharijites, who would say, La hukm illa lillah. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Imam Sajjad was trying to say is, by killing you, Ya Abul Hasan, that hujjah became incumbent upon them. I.e., we said, if you don't act on the hujjah, what is the result? Punishment. The Imam was saying those people will be punished because they killed the Hujjah of God. The Hujjah was right in front of them, yet they rejected it. That was the meaning of this statement. Then the Imam says, "Ala ma laka min al-hujjah al-baligha ala jami' khalqi." Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you weren't just a Hujjah for those Kharijites that you showed them the true haqq, yet still they denied you. Rather, you are also a Hujjatul Baligha, a complete Hujjah for all of the Khalq, all of mankind. For every single moment of the life of Ali bin Abi Talib. Every single action that he did, every single prayer that he performed, the way he would eat, the way he would stand, the way he would sit, everything was taking a person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single action of his was a manifestation of Tawheed, and was that which took a person closer to understanding the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. And I want to give you one example of how he was Al-Hujjatul Baligha. We're told in Kufa, those 3 or 4 years that Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi is a Khalif of the Muslimin. Whilst he is a Khalif, we're told that on one occasion, a person comes and gives certain things to him as part of Baytul Mal, as part of the treasury of the Muslimin, that which is to be given to the poor and the needy and the orphans, and that which is to be distributed in the right way. He's given a lot of things. So he's given money, he's given a sword, he's given a shield, he's given a whole number of things. The aada and the habit and the practice of Ali bin Abi Talib was such that when he would be given these things to distribute as part of the Baytul Mal, he normally goes out in the nighttime and distributes it to those who wish, and he distributes some in the daytime. He goes at night because he wishes to give it to the person who needs it as quickly as possible. Not that I keep it and I delay it and give it to them later. Someone needs something now, and the rightful owner of this money, give it to them as quickly as possible. So Abu al-Hasan alayhi salam goes out in the nighttime. He gives whatever he can from this money from Baytul Mal to the poor and needy of Kufa, until he comes back and he sees this shield that a person would use to protect themselves. He's thinking, what can I do with this? Who can I give to this? He leaves it there. He says, tomorrow we'll think about what we can do with it and how we can give it to someone who needs it, how it can help a poor person, a person in poverty. Ala kulli hal, Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi comes the next day. He enters into the treasury. He sees that the shield is missing. i.e., someone has stolen it. Now, with the knowledge that he has of Imamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the holy A'immah alayhim wasalam knowledge of ghaib. He leaves thinking about it and he goes walking through the market, because we're told that Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam often, to make sure that people are sticking to the rules of the Sharia in their business, in their day-to-day trade, he walks with a number of people of his companions in the market, making sure that no one is stealing, if someone has a fiqhi issue, whatever it may have been. On this occasion, Ali bin Abi Talib is walking alone. He's walking through the market when he sees this shield. Now, it's one of a kind. It's not like something today we have certain things which are manufactured. For example, we have 100,000 of the same thing. No, it's one of a kind. That shield, you can tell, is that specific shield that I had yesterday. So he goes up to that person. He doesn't accuse him. He doesn't say, you've stolen this. He goes up to that person. That person, the riwayah says, was a Christian. He goes up to him and says, this shield, I don't think it belongs to you. He says, no. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no, I don't think it belongs to you, because the same shield yesterday was part of the Baytul Mal. He says, no, I got this from someone. And so Amir al-Mu'mineen says, you bought this shield? He says, yes, I bought it. Okay, no problem. Who did you buy it from? The person ignored. He didn't say anything. No, it's my shield. I've got it rightfully. I own it, and it's got nothing to do with you. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, look, this exact shield was part of the Baytul Mal. I'm not saying you've stolen it, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to Baytul Mal. Whether you've bought it from someone else or not, he says, no, this is mine. He didn't say I've bought it from anyone. He says, this is mine. So both of them, even though Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam is Khalifa of Muslimin at that time, they go to the Qadi of the city known as Qadi Shuraih. Qadi Shuraih himself has a history and was someone who wasn't of morals, and later on there's also an incident that takes place with him and Muawiyah, and as well as Sayyid al-Shuhada salamullahi alayhi and Imam Hassan. Ala kulli hal, they go to Qadi Shurayh. Qadi Shurayh sees these two people. One is Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. The other is this Christian person with his shield. Now it's so important to remember who's the person that made Qadi Shurayh a Qadi. How was he made a Qadi? Under which hukuma? Under the hukuma of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So technically, in the hierarchy of things, Amir al-Mu'mineen is of course in charge. Can order to him to do what he wants. Amir al-Mu'mineen could tell him, throw this person into the jails of Kufa right now. He can do whatever he wants. He's the Khalifa. He's in charge of the whole government. But Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam doesn't say anything. They come in front of this Qadi Shurayh. Qadi says, Ya Abul Hasan. Oh, Abul Hasan, what is the issue? So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, this person had this shield in his possession. I'm claiming that it belongs to Baytul Mal. For yesterday, I saw this same thing in Baytul Mal. It was given to me by so-and-so person, and I was meant to distribute it to the poor. Now here in fiqh, in jurisprudence, we have a principle which says, Al-Bayyin lil-Mudda'i wal-Yamin ala man ankar. If I claim that something is mine or something doesn't belong to that person, I need to bring proofs. So, mathalan, if this aba, someone claims that this aba on my shoulders belongs to them, or it's on my shoulders, I have possession of it. Possession is often a sign of ownership. If a person comes and claims that this aba actually I took from them or doesn't belong to me, they need to bring two witnesses. I don't need to do anything. I can just come and say they don't bring two witnesses. I can say that I take oath with the name of God that this aba belongs to me. So when you're claiming something which is in someone else's possession, you are the one that has to bring two witnesses. Amir al-Mu'mineen is claiming that that which is in the possession of that person, that shield, belongs to Baytul Mal. So Amir al-Mu'mineen in this case, according to fiqh and jurisprudence, needs to bring two witnesses. Walakin, however, Amir al-Mu'mineen at that moment in time doesn't have any witnesses. Because when he's given it at the night time, no one was there to see that this is part of Baytul Mal. Qadi Shurayh says, Ya Abul Hasan, do you have any witnesses for what you're claiming? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no. So Qadi Shurayh says, then I can't say that this belongs to you and Baytul Mal. I have to favor the Christian. And so they favor the Christian. The Christian is given that shield and he goes. Before he goes, however, first of all, Shurayh is thinking, if it really is of Baytul Mal, Ali ibn Abi Talib right now could take it and punish him. He's the Khalifa and he knows it's his. And we know that Ali ibn Abi Talib doesn't lie. Yet still, because he wants to stick with the justice system and Islamically fiqhan, because he doesn't have those two witnesses, he can't take it just like that. He has to stick with the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he acts by this system. As soon as Qadi Shurayh says, and this is very important, as soon as Qadi Shurayh says that I side with the Christian and that shield belongs to him, fiqhan, according to fiqh and jurisprudence, they saw that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, his face was slightly not happy. You could see signs from his face that he's not happy. Qadi Shurayh knows Ali ibn Abi Talib. Amir al-Mu'mineen isn't unhappy because he's lost the case. There must be something else. This isn't Ali ibn Abi Talib. What does he care about a shield? The reason why he cares about that shield is that that shield belongs to the Muslimin, belongs to the fuqara, the poor. Otherwise, why would he be unhappy? So Shurayh says, Ya Ali, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why do you look unhappy all of a sudden? He said, because when you were doing qadawa, when you were doing hukm, and when you were dealing with our dispute, you weren't fair. So why? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, because when you addressed me with my kunya, with my title. You called me Abul Hasan with respect. But when you addressed him, you didn't call him with his title. Have you seen the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib? Even though that person has unlawfully taken that which belongs to the Muslimin, yet still Amir al-Mu'mineen is not happy that that qadi, that judge, addresses him with respect and doesn't address this Christian person also with the same respect. Ali ibn Abi Talib says, don't do this from now on. And we have this in the ahkam of qadawa and being a judge, how you should deal with people with equal respect. If you called me Abul Hasan, you call him whatever he was, Abu whatever he was, with his kunya and title. As soon as that happens, Amir al-Mu'mineen tells the person, take this shield that you claim is yours, and he goes. Walakin fil waqi', in reality, that person knows that the shield doesn't belong to him. He knows that he stole it from Baytul Mal. And so he's thinking, even though I stole this shield, and even though this man is the Khalifa and has all the power in his hands to punish me, yet still this man has so much adala. Yet still this man has so much justice that he abides by the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to him. A few hours later, what was I saying? Amir al-Mu'mineen is a hujjah of Allah on this earth. Ala ma laka min al-hujaj al-baligha ala jami'i khalqih. You were a complete hujjah for all, that they would see you and they'd be taken directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A few hours later, that person knocks on the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He brings the shield. He says, when I saw the justice of a man like you, I realized that I wish to believe in the God that is the God of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. That person who has this much justice and adala, the deity that he worships and believes in, I wish to worship and believe in that same deity. And so this person at that moment in time says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Amir al-Mu'mineen was hujjatul baligha. Every single action takes of his, reminds us of Allah and takes us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why in the 7 nights that we've had looking at Ziyarat Aminullah, we have now completed 2 sections. The first section, which was looking at the alqab and the titles of Ali bin Abi Talib mentioned by Imam Sajjad. And the second were the qualities that Imam Sajjad bears witness that were present in Amir al-Mu'mineen. And we've seen that when we discuss these ziyarat and these riwayat and the kalam of Ma'sumeen, and we look at the lives of Ma'sumeen, we find so many issues arise with regards to how I can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we come to the third part of this ziyarah, which after mentioning these 2 stages, after doing what we call a physical traditional ziyarah of Imam Ali alayhi salam, suddenly Imam Sajjad alayhi salam changes. And after addressing Amir al-Mu'mineen and doing the ziyarah and bear witnessing to all of these things, suddenly he changes and addresses Allah. And he says, Allahumma faj'al nafsi mutma'innatan biqadarik. And people say this is like the munajat of Imam Sajjad. Whilst he's doing this, is part of the ziyarah. In the ziyarah, after addressing Amir al-Mu'mineen, he then changes to do a dua and ask for 13 things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are 13 things which make a mu'min a mu'min. These are 13 things which make a believer a believer. These are 13 things which take a person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are those 13 things? Why does he change like that? We don't normally find that a ziyarah suddenly in the middle changes into a dua. So why did Imam Sajjad change from a ziyarah into a dua? Why did he ask for these 13 things? What was the secret of the letter Fa, which he mentions in his dua? He says, Allahumma faj'al. After doing the ziyarah, he says, oh Allah, therefore, give me these 13 things. Why did he say therefore? And what did these mean? And what were those 13 things? And what is the analysis of each of these 13 things that Imam Sajjad asks? Inshallah, if we have tawfiq in some of the nights of the programs that inshallah we have from the 15th night of Shahr Ramadan, during some of those nights we'll inshallah aim to continue with the analysis of these statements from Ziyarat Aminullah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be able to benefit from these nights of Shahr Ramadan, most importantly to be able to gain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gain the pleasure of his hujjah on this earth, صاحب العصر والزمان. وآخر الدعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا نبينا محمد وعلى الطيبين الطاهرين.